gotta do an intro now, don't I? Welcome to MNW Dark, where Tim and I don't give a fuck.
Indeed.
Because that's just...
I did have one fuck, but I got rid of it earlier today.
Yeah, it needed to go. It needed to be given to a good home. So yeah, so we're just doing stuff tonight. I'm gonna do some maintenance for MNW. Which, okay, maintenance. I haven't swapped the belts yet. You know, with a whole bunch of new champions from Millennium Dragon. I haven't changed a damn thing yet, so you know, we're gonna do that. And we're just gonna do it on stream because it's not like I need to hide it. It's not like there's deep dark secrets. I just, you know, this is behind the scenes. We're pulling the curtain up. Look, I know you're there, Bosco. If you want to drop into the stream, please feel free. Yeah, because we're just, you know, we're doing shit tonight. Anyway. Yeah. So hi everyone. We're taking a dark week because Zacho needs a night off. He puts a lot of, I don't think you guys understand how much effort especially when we're doing a pay-per-view that our Mr. Zacho puts in to doing a show. And so he really likes to take a week off to regroup and refigure out the storylines. So we like to take the day off. And I know last time we took the whole, we didn't do any stream, but Tim and I were both dealing with stuff that time, and we could use the rest. But tonight it's just, yeah. But I'll tell you this, Tim and I are glad it is a dark night. Because honestly, we're both like, if we had to put forth effort tonight, it would be really rough. That's all I'm saying. Whereas this is like, whatever. I'm gonna pull up some stuff. We'll figure some stuff out. But also, you know, consider the Q&A open. I did not open up the Wrestle tweet.
Oh, hi, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, because we're not doing anything in reality, but or we're not doing anything in game. But if anyone wants to highlight anything or ask us or just ask us questions, we'll do it. Hey, Chibi! Oh, I gotta do the things because this is a dark night. Thunderbear, congratulations on the 100 stream streak. In it to win it. You're the person right behind Squatch on the stream streak. Also, folks, enjoy this. This is the one time I'm completely out of character. I'm not Jerry. I'm not Dr. Caliban. This is the one time you actually get to hear Jeff. Tim.
Meanwhile, I more or less sound the same because I'm lazy.
I don't know where. Well, I do know where it was. I had this weird thing. So the Dr. Caliban voice comes from the dumbest place. And part of it is, well, it started in a dumb place, even though ultimately I'm just doing what the other guy I kind of copied was doing. Because there's a band called Creature Feature. And they're a little indie rock band who all of their songs are somehow horror related. And they you know, they have songs like Aim for the Head, Greatest Show on Earth, Grisly Demise, and they're all kind of vaguely comical horror songs. And in one of them, Grisly Demise, which is just a riff off of Edward Gorey's Grim Tintinis, they have a guy talking beforehand and kind of a character, and he's doing a voice, and that voice got in my head a little bit as what I would do as Dr. Caliban, but I also realized on some level he was just trying to do Vincent Price.
Sure.
And what he did, it was like a little bit. I went more, okay, let me actually listen to Vincent Price. And I am by no means the best imitator in the world, but it was also, it's still, I'm doing my version of Vincent Price and imitation to be Dr. Caliban. And so I've always felt it works. What was funny was I had originally developed that for the radio play I had written. But while we were doing it, everyone else in the cast said, "You're the only one doing something weird like that. Stop it." Which is like, that's not true. We've got Fritz. But yeah. So I just went.
Well, and of course, my while like VTuber stuff, I basically sound the same.
Hmm.
The announcer thing is basically just used car salesman
Well, it's that character.
turned up a bit.
Yeah, it's that character from Monkey Island.
Right, yeah, the used boat salesman.
Yeah.
That was where the first idea of it came from because it that is essentially a used car salesman.
Hmm.
And I just do something like this. Hey.
And then you got the echo effect, and hey, it's the announcer. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right, hang on. I'm gonna let me do something so there's something interesting on screen. Because I got the game open. So the first thing, and I just want to make sure we're there. Just so you know, it has been announced that March 26th is when the servers for 24 die. Zacho promises that he is almost done with our conversion to 25, so it's all going to be fine. But that means it'll be around that time that we're going to be having to look at 26 and see what nightmare they're going to give us this time.
What fun.
Which is always a fun night. And I'm usually streaming, and Bosco is streaming, and usually Arkolf is doing something, and I think Bob will often get in there, and nothing will match what the fuck happened in 2020.
Except for the bugs. The bugs will still match somehow.
We'll still match, but no, the 2020 and the I've talked to Arkolf many times. I have never heard his voice. Arkolf's a very calm guy, very nice guy. I've never heard him so angry. I've heard Bob angry. I've heard Bosco angry, but Arkolf
Angry and defeated.
Yeah,
like dejected.
I am. Yeah, it was very much. I am pissed, but I'm also just very disappointed in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a rough night for all of us.
It really, really was. And I was trying, because he's doing stuff and I was going along, I was trying to remake the creation. And yeah, it just wasn't going well. So the only time I've ever seen anything of that work was that I did see Bosco manage to get a couple things done. Because, was it a Multivania? I think it was a Multivania. He did a match between the creation and Nitzig Gunk Gobbler that had to take place. It was a graveyard smash match, and there was a graveyard set because of all the horror stuff in 2020, and so he did the match in that just so he could do all of the graveyard stuff, and that worked. I think he might have done one or two other matches like that. So anyway, I gotta get over here. I'm editing the shows. And yeah, the other thing that makes me kind of upset is they had some really interesting ring entrances in 2020, and the only one now, given the one they kept over, makes me happy because it's the one I use for the creation. But they had some other great. I still want them to. It's like, why the hell did they not keep the no, that's the wrong one. And put it on. I gotta find Alba. Why the hell did they not keep, at the very least, the Finn Balor demon teleporting entrance? Because that would have been great for like Lucius Constantine. But they had that great Aleister Black, like I think of it as the Warlock entrance, which I think got used once somehow got imported to do an entrance for Exarchun. So I just think some of those other entrances could have been saved because they were interesting, but no one asks me. Sorry, hang on a second. I'm trying to see. Matrix is saying, I wonder if I can get a refund on 24 once it dies. No, I wish, man. God.
Matrix, the only way that would probably work would depend on when you bought the game and how much playtime you've put into it. If you've bought the game in like the last couple of months and you haven't played it for more than what do they say?
2 hours.
2 hours. Yeah, if it's something like that, then you might get away with it. But if you played for more than 2 hours, or it's been many months after you've purchased it, they'll still go no. Yeah,
And
they have made exceptions, but
yeah,
I doubt you'd get away with that for 2K.
yeah. Also, note to self and note to actually, could you drop this as a note in Zacho's garbage ideas in that server? I need the underworld belt. I don't have the underworld belt, and I'm gonna need it to put it on Squatch. Alistair. Why am I not? See, there's something else.
All right, hits there.
All right, thank you. I'll use Gunner. There. Oh, right. Because I gotta. Hang on, I gotta go fix. No, let's go save this. I gotta go back. I'm gonna be talking to you guys while I'm fixing some shit.
Yeah, like Chibi said, so basically, like if you'd bought it like a couple of days ago and you hadn't put 2 hours in, you could get a refund. But like they're saying, no longer than 1 week and 2 hours of play, barring special circumstances, like some of the games that have just gone to shit at launch, and they're like, no, sorry, we allow it. I'm trying to remember some of those.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I've been around it. I've seen guys. Somebody did this whole thing where he bought Dispatch, played the first 2 episodes, and did a kind of a speed run so he could then refund it after he'd gotten the playthrough to done the play. And the question was, well, what are you gonna do that for all the other chapters? He said, why not? It's like, well, you might not. Well, for one thing, I'm just doing this.
Also, great way to support indie developers. Dick.
Well, and that's
like do that with like EA, 2K,
yeah,
fucking Sony or Sega. A relatively indie game. Don't fuck them over like that. They actually need the money.
Well, and everyone in that particular discussion was, basically calling the guy. This was one of those guys that's like, yeah, okay, we understand you don't have a soul. Got it. No, that's fine. That's fine. You're an I got mine kind of guy. Got it. I understand.
Yep.
And
also, yeah, as chat was saying, yeah, Fallout 76 got the refunds outside of the normal rules because it was just.
Oh yeah, when something gets just noticeably fucked up, they're going to make exceptions because it was noticeably fucked up.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna do some stuff. Okay, for a second. So this is one. Okay, actually. Well, yeah. And then what? Do you want to proceed to the next event? Yeah. So whenever I finish a show where I've finished the universe mode portion, I just get out because I want to, and I don't do the move to the next show till I'm setting up for the next one. Let me show you. I'm going to show you guys. This is for those of you who don't have the game, I just want you to see what I go through every week. So we have a thing. It's called the Nexus protocols, and it's a Google spreadsheet that has all of the information we would want for managing MNW. And so it has things like, both rosters. And with both rosters, it's going to have everyone's moves, their finishers and signatures, as well as any nicknames they have. And then we have a thing of who has what custom music and where is it located, so you can, all that stuff. But one of the things we use it for is every week Zacho puts out a proposed, here's the card for the week. And then Tim and I get together on Thursday and go over it. In part so that Tim and I will have a good understanding of it to run the show. But also to, go, oh, do we want to do this? Or so, for example, Zacho doesn't always remember some of the things that happened minutia in the show. And so, we'll use that. But in the end, I have a listing, and it has two things. It has all the pre-recorded matches so I can load the videos, and it has all of the RNG matches so I can set up. Then I have to take that and go through here and set up the RNG matches. And usually what I'll do is I'll just, I'll take a match like this, edit, and I'll just change the participants. Yeah. And then I'll just go do all those, and this is just the weird, and there are something like Carcharodon. I still have him on the game. I never deleted him, even though he's not on the show anymore. It's weird he's in this because he's not on the roster. At least I don't think he's on the roster. I want to look.
He could still be in a tag pairing.
I don't think he was. Hang on, I want to. Let's go. I want to go look. Let's look at the roster real quick.
Also, Morris. So original idea for the Nexus protocol. I had proposed during one of the production meetings, just as an idea, because my original concept of the Nexus protocol was something along the lines of a spreadsheet, but it also included image assets, like some move lists, everything that you would need to hypothetically restart the show from scratch as best as possible, at least information wise. But as many things that I propose, I never quite followed through with it. And so Zacho took the idea and made it a reality that has worked very well for us. But yeah, no, it's essentially just a spreadsheet with a whole bunch of books that help us keep track of stuff. But I had originally wanted to have kind of like a Google Drive, but with all the assets, all the information, everything in one place, so that hypothetically just somebody could walk in with little to no understanding and get the show going. But that's a much bigger undertaking than what we have, and what we have is actually working. So,
right. So it turns out I did need to do a little
reinvent the wheel and whatnot.
Wow, we went from 75 to 67. Wow, all we needed was two more members, and we could have made Corporal Canada a very happy man. Canada gave me so much shit when Jagger Blackthorn joined the show, because right before Jagger joined the show, we were at 69
right,
characters.
I remember.
And as soon as I had Jagger say, "Hey, we're at 70 now," he's like, "No." Because, we're mature.
We miss you, Canada. There's always a seed ready for you.
And just so you guys know, Canada, it was a timing thing. Canada did the worst thing you can do for one of these things. He got a life.
I was just about to say, yeah, he got a life.
He got a life. He's doing well. I chatted with him a little bit recently. Yeah, he's doing good. All right, we might as well let's start the show. But I might let's see. It did change a few things. Okay, that's good. It's still going as a raw. So one of the things that'll happen is the program will constantly put things together, because it's like, oh, we need to do this. For the last, I want to say 3 or 4 months, this match always shows up automatically in universe mode. It desperately wants Aiden Zero to fight Louis McDonald.
Well, it's because there's a rivalry there.
Right. Well,
but you'd have to, like, I guess you could go in and delete the rivalry.
I could, but I don't know the word ever actually hurts anything. So
true.
And for some reason it wants to pair. Well, okay, because in the game I don't have TPK in yet as a team. I haven't built them because I haven't got the build stuff from Zacho yet. So it wants to team Gorm and Jagger, which I think is funny. Tommy and then what the, you know what? I'm good with this. Yeah. So let's just go ahead and I'm going to do a start the show just so we can. And then the rest of it is just setting, I always try and start the show at least a little bit before. The other thing I have to do, there is a bug in 2K24 that they did not fix in 2K25, which causes a second version of CrashPad Handler, which is a program that gathers data in case a program's crashed so you can send it to the company. Creates a second version of that, and it interferes with the ability of the characters to target each other. And either using the controllers or in just RNG. So I have to every show go in and close that out manually before I can start the show. And then it's just a matter of going here, I click it. Then it's just the waiting game, and I usually try and set it up so that when we're doing a promo or something that's a video or some other asset, it has time to load. Because this is what we're waiting now for. We're waiting for it to load. And then when it's time to go. So every time I'm saying let's head to ringside. And the reason I say let's head to ringside every single time is it's a final verbal to Tim. Hey, we're going to start the match now. And I say it as I'm pressing the button. Because by the time the GIF on the screen with the wheel opening is done,
I'm doing the thing again. I love it.
And I don't know what the hell's going up with the model that it's freak. So we've just been talking about Aiden is invisible or something. I don't know.
He missed his ride. It went up without him.
Yeah. I like that one. I might use that one next time.
It's great because at a certain point, the cloaking device, as Juan calls it, wears off.
You know, I would liken that to an invisible condition in a role-playing game.
Sure.
It stays until you do take an action.
I love this. Look at him.
And then usually, because there's different sections of the entrance, literally in the, because...
There it goes. Flipping Predator over here.
So there was, speaking of invisibility, there was an episode... Critical Role had a mini-series called Calamity. And in it, they had a character make a... they got a 31 on a perception check against an invisible opponent. And so what the GM ruled was that logic dictates just a little fraction of your pupils have to still be visible so you can see. And he ruled that this guy's perception was so good, he could see, because they were moving in sync, the two little granular motes of his pupils, and used that to attack.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was Travis's character. The only character to survive that campaign. There's a lot of people hoping they'll do an animated movie of Calamity, because they keep referencing it in the other animated series they do. I think one of the things...
And introducing his opponent!
Honestly, I think one of the storylines for the previous year that worked really well was the redemption of Louis McDonald.
Sure.
Just because it was booked really well, and it was really interesting to see, because you see this in wrestling all the time. Somebody who's just a massive heel like Louis, and then booking decides, well, we've done everything we can with him as a heel, so let's flip him to face and see what happens.
It's the Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, and it had that kind of effect with Louis, where he went from just Mr. I will stab you in the back to this really good face that worked really well as champion. And I like that, even though we're doing a mix-up story with Uncle Dunk now, we're going a completely different route, as befits their characters. Of course, Uncle's gone to hell, so don't take that as we don't know what happened. You'll find out what happened to Uncle next week.
I will take credit, though, for suggesting bringing McCheese into the mix.
That was the best. Yeah, we were having the booking meeting. Yeah, I was talking about that booking meeting, guys. And we were having the booking meeting, and we were talking about everything. And Tim said, hey, what if we brought
we're talking about the whole Miracle on 34th Street analogy, or the Christmas Carol analogy.
Christmas Carol analogy, yeah.
And I was just sitting there going, well, if we're pulling somebody from Uncle's past, oh God, McCheese. So yeah, I proudly take credit for that.
Yeah. Hang on, I'm just looking. So
that being said, though, it was Zacho's call to make him the ref.
Yeah,
I like that.
Well, because Bosco was in that meeting, and Bosco said, I can get him to you. I'm just looking. I'm looking at so one of the things while we're watching this match happen, this week's going to be so much easier on my voice. Jerry, because of how hype I get with Jerry, I will, even though I try and be careful, I will lose my voice. I really should be drinking more tea on Monday nights. What I was going to say is, we already have a lot of roadmap worked out for what's coming up. And Zacho, I'd say, has most of a tentative card for Future Shock whenever we do it. And he's got 3 most likely will be matches for Multivania, and 2, or I should say 3, he's thinking about.
You're back.
All right. So, this is how far ahead we plan. Honestly, at this stage, we do have to start mapping out Multivania, even though it's in the summer. Because that's going to tell us what we're doing. It tells us how to move those storylines. Where does that needle go? But the other nice thing about it is, we can start going, okay, what characters during the current batch of storylines were backburnered? And thus, we need to start bringing up. So just a little food for thought on that front. Trying to see if I got anything. So as I said, and I'll keep mentioning this, if you guys have questions or anything about logic or what we think's going on, or just what I was gonna say, or what I think about pro wrestling, I'm gonna be honest, guys. I at most am tertiarily looking at what's actually going on in the real world of wrestling right now. And my argument there is nothing's really grabbing me.
Yeah.
Nothing for the... unless they do something big with Joe Hendry, I don't know that I'm going to care. I get more joy out of...
I've been digging some of the stuff for AEW. Tony Storm in particular.
Oh, yeah. Well, and
that's been great.
I occasionally will watch Evil Uno's YouTube show, the... that one independent wrestling thing he does.
Right.
And, it can be entertaining, but again, that's getting very indie.
Props to Cardona, though, for making the comeback with Ryder out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of those, I think it weirdly feels like, okay, work with me here. WWE lets go Cody Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
Cody then starts setting the indie scene on fire. Culminating with
before.
AEW coming into existence. And suddenly, he's hot, WWE's interested again. Cardona was kind of doing the same thing on a smaller scale.
Well, and also both of these are happening in a different regime, let's say.
True.
You very much have the, okay, let's start bringing back everything that was great about NXT. Of course, now I hear that they're cutting ranks, but you're seeing a lot of the people that were being brought up during that era being brought back. Mm-hmm. A lot of the people that, I say Triple H really liked, and he always felt like, I could do something with these guys, but couldn't. Mm-hmm. It is kind of going, well, let's get them back. These guys are still going. They're still good. They still make money.
Yeah. But it also kind of just goes back to, here's the weird thing. I have not watched Raw since it went to Netflix.
I haven't watched it with any consistency since Netflix. I mean, at least in part because we're doing this.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm usually never motivated enough to go back and watch what I missed.
Yeah. I mean, it is true. We kind of counter program it. And, hey, look, there it goes. I guess Aiden Zero won something.
Oh, I'm also digging the Hangman Page and Swerve bit going.
All right.
That being said, I have gotten a bit tired of the Death Riders.
I think
I just think as a gimmick, it's run its course.
Yeah. Well, and that's also what ends up happening is, okay, we're done with this. It's time to move on. Stories need to end.
Yeah. That's how you start new ones.
Yeah. And so I always felt that was one of the things, my personal thought, one of the things that killed WCW was they never quite had the guts to end the NWO.
Oh, yeah.
That's a story that should have had an end point at some point. And instead, they just kept freaking milking it.
Well, and I think someone at some point was under the impression that by repackaging it, it was something new, and it wasn't.
No.
It's like, oh, well, this is NWO Wolfpack. It's still NWO. But it's different. No, it's not.
Well, and they also never... This is going to be interesting. Let's see if I put the belt on. Hope so. This is one of the issues that I think... Okay, I got to figure out what's going on with that. One of the issues that happened with WCW, the giving creative control to the wrestlers on that level. And I understand that's technically how they enticed Hogan over and how they enticed a few other big name wrestlers to come over, was giving them some of that power, but it led...
Well, essentially the Click minus Triple H.
Yeah. Well, but it also just led to some of the dumbest things because, well, one big one, Hogan's ego.
What?
I'm still remembering there was some freaking... I can't remember what it was. It was OSW. You and I were watching an episode of, and it was one of the pay-per-view.
OSW.
Yeah, and Hogan was scheduled to lose, and then at the last minute he decided he didn't want to lose. But they still had him lose. And then he spent the entire post-match thing bitching about, no, I didn't get really thrown over the top rope.
Yep.
Okay, what the hell? I gotta recheck. Note to me, I gotta recheck all the music. Music might have gotten screwed up again. That's happened before in this game. I mean, it's fine for a Dark Knight, but... And El Robot, thank you for the Tier 1 resub at 58 months. It's so terrible that this is just automatically the clown theme.
Right. Yeah, so I want to say it was the Rumble. Or no, it was, not Rumble. It was World War III?
Might have been. World War III sounds right, where they had multiple rings.
Right. And so he was supposed to go over and be eliminated, but instead he had the Giant pull him out under the ropes, and then there's a whole fuck finish. And so Savage, shocker, wins, and Hogan starts just talking shit to Savage. Like, Savage just won a goddamn title, and now he has to deal with this bullshit.
Yeah. And it was so clear that Hogan was like, no, I don't like how this ended. I want to rewrite it on the fly.
Yep.
But it was stuff like that that made the whole contract thing. And then I want to say they did something similar briefly over on Impact. Again, during the era when they were bringing in a bunch of the old WCW guys. Which really, to me, comes down to anytime you bring in Hogan and don't put a leash on him.
Yeah.
Um,
You need somebody who's critical of him.
yeah. Well, you need somebody who can tell him you're not booking the match.
Well, it's like he doesn't need people around him who are just going to agree, oh yeah, that sounds great, Hulk. You need somebody to just go, Hulk, I don't know about that one, brother.
Well, I think even you've heard Bischoff talk about how he regrets doing so much of that. How it was, yeah, it got us through getting the people, but I mean, he recognizes how bad it played.
Yep.
That's one of the things I really respect about Bischoff these days is, you know, he'll give you a good and nuanced opinion, including admitting when something he did just, yeah, that was a bad idea.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, I have warmed to him to a degree. I've also warmed to Russo as a person.
Yeah.
I still think his booking is god awful.
Yeah.
But he seems like a halfway decent guy.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, I really, when things come up analyzing stuff going in the industry, I will pay attention to what Bischoff has to say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was recently speculating about what's going to be happening with Jericho. And mostly he's talking about how he's looking at some of the stuff Jericho recently did and is pointing out, this is how smart Chris Jericho is. And it was all about, he sees what Jericho is setting up in a, no matter what decision he makes, Jericho is going to be sitting pretty because he set it up perfectly.
Well, I don't know if he figured it out himself, but it very much reminds me of how it turned out that Kevin Nash.
Oh, yeah.
It just very early on, very business savvy and very aware of what to do with himself as a property.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, he may have ended up screwing some people over, but like he was smart about it.
Yeah.
I still find the Punisher story hilarious.
Oh, God, yeah.
So for anybody that hasn't heard this story, Kevin Nash had a role in the Eric Bana?
No, the
Thomas Jane,
yeah.
Punisher. And the story was that his character was to be stabbed in the just right around the shoulder, and obviously when that happened, they were supposed to have a fake knife. Well, somebody forgot to switch out the real knife, and fucking Hoss Kevin Nash gets stabbed with a real knife and doesn't break character.
No, the
And
wrestling
after
training.
the scene,
Go ahead. Sorry.
after they cut, and people, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He's like, hey, if you guys just get me like a case of beer, I'm good.
Yeah. The guys, I'm a professional wrestler. I've literally been hurt worse than this. I still love that Kevin Nash had a small but I feel deeply important scene in the first John Wick.
Right.
You know, it very much and it's one of those that a lot of people go, oh, hey, that's Kevin Nash. But because his character was only in that one scene, it was like, oh, hey, and then he's gone and not overshadowing anything. And being the one guy that John Wick lets live.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, the one guy who went, He's like, why don't you take the night off? And all he says is thank you, because he realizes everyone else is going to die.
God, I was just... Oh, hey.
All right, well, RNG's doing pretty good tonight. Yeah, since Driscoll is the champion. I don't know if Mudkip is here tonight. But honestly, I think Driscoll has been an interesting character in that how we've evolved him.
Yeah.
Oh, they still got those guys. Why? Oh, no, I'll note to self, fix that. Okay. Because it's a combination of little things. Because Zaka will give me like broad strokes. And then I'm sitting there in the moment. All right, what am I doing with this? And so, all I had was mysterious, possibly supernatural figure. And so from that came the whole storyline of Jerry going, apparently I signed this guy. I don't remember signing him, but my signature's on the contract. All of that was just me going, what can I do with this? And then, of course, it looks like he's not now given. I don't think any wrestler blinks in this case.
No, I don't think so. Or if they do, it's few and far between.
Yeah. But it's just because his eyes are so prominently staring that it becomes the whole, will he ever blink? So little things like that. It's totally, some of the story nuances are completely just what was in my head at the time. And then sometimes like Mudkip and Unkley, and I would also say I feel Brad does this with Ignacio, where they will latch on to something I've said and go ahead and run with it. Unkley to the most insane levels. I'll say a little thing and he will do an entire promo around it. But a lot of it is just, what am I thinking in the moment? The whole, God, what was it? The whole, the threaten me. It was the Jean Tristram Jagger Blackthorn threatened me with a good time.
Right.
Bit, because it was just, what have I in the minute? And it was like, these guys, and I just decided that he would just be, yeah, let's do this. That sounds great to me. And it went to, and it was literally the words, threaten me with a good time. And then it just became, because it's like I sometimes misjudge how long those things are going to go. And I'm still going there. And so it just became the whole genre going, stop being into this. And that's just,
Joke's on you. I'm into that shit.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember. I want to say it's the Netflix McMahon series. It could be a different one, but I think it's that, where if nothing else you get from that miniseries, watch the progression of how high Kevin Nash is.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing. Like, you just watch it and you just see him falling deeper and deeper into his couch and just being like, yeah.
Hey, I'm going to throw this up real quick just because Brad was asking, am I right when I say Driscoll has only made deals with faces? I believe you are. I mean, I'd have to double check. Because the deals he's been made or tried to make were Seth, Westwind, Janitor, and I'm forgetting someone, but I think they were also a face. Yeah, it's always yeah. It does seem like he's always trying to tempt the good guys. I think that's be an interesting thing to bring up with Zacho in a production meeting. It's like, it has only been faces, right? Alistair Evergreen. He's tried with Alistair, and Alistair has rebuked him every time. So this is a sign that I clearly forgot to take Payne out of ICC. I've just, he's never been booked with them, so it's not come up. So. I'm going to say one of the other things that I've really enjoyed lately, just in a form of character evolution, is Adonis Washington.
Yeah.
In that, I mean, he was one of, and I want to say Fortress was as well, but he was one of the characters where it was one of the characters that Takahata made and was using and was throwing out for adoption. And so he was based just on, I think this looks interesting.
Well, and he was also at the time trying to take advantage of items in the Creator Wrestler that were not being used.
Right. And it worked, and of course with the name Absolute Wash, it worked, and then the Absolute units got created. And the one thing I was like, it's with him going to Adonis, suddenly Absolute isn't really just about him. It's about they are the team.
All right, I remember. It was the double. I forget who it was. Someone was teaching Kurt the double hair glitch.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, okay, I'm making a character out of this."
Yeah. Now, to be fair, we've got. In fact, I could be wrong, but I think all four of these characters were from that. Were the adoptables. Because I know Adonis was, I know Payne was, I think Locken was, and I'm pretty sure Forrest was.
Yeah, I believe so.
So these are all four adoptables, but I think the thing that works here is how much each player has indelibly made it their own.
Sure.
All of the adoptables have character, and those characterizations are largely from their work. I mean, Forrest is an absolute, pun not intended, creation of Thunder Baron's promos. And Payne, again, Meister has had a huge amount of input onto how Payne's characters evolved into, what he is now.
I would say Lockett's probably the least changed.
I'm sorry, I was
of the group.
Which one?
Locken.
Yeah, and I think that's mostly because Thomas is one of our more passive members. He doesn't comment a lot.
Sure.
And that's left us, okay, that's fine. Whereas, we occasionally get stuff from Nice Ice. We occasionally, get stuff from Glacerius. But,
well, I mean, in general, the ICC has continued to work. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But then you've got, like, the units where they're active and will occasionally do the group promos. So... And, the other thing, and one of the reasons we don't like to immediately retire characters. No, but Meister, you've had a lot of input on Payne's personality. And that's the important part. what was I going to say? One of the things I think is also valuable is keeping characters going, even if their creators maybe pull back, because we've seen those creators come back. I mean, a great example. Zephyr was the reason I will never do an adoptable again, because that's awkward.
Hear that, Zephyr? It's your fault.
But I was thinking of, for example, Devin. You know, we kept Devin going and started developing a storyline for him. And in the middle of that, Gamer Devin returned. And he returned to a story in progress that he was immediately able to latch onto and run with. And the same with Emon Twizzle showed back up. And, you know, we had kept Gorm going. And he came back around the time we were doing the Gorm face turn.
Yeah, like Thunderbaron saying Croc Bar.
Croc is another great example of, you know, you keep. So I'm a big advocate of don't just retire characters because the players aren't around. People sometimes need to take breaks. I think another great example is CJ Blackthorn took a little break and came back, and his storyline's still happening. And that's another one where all the changes to Jagger were things that Blackthorn himself asked for.
Basically, the only time we ever retire characters is if the owner specifically asks for it.
Yeah. If the owner says, hey, please retire my character. And, you know, there's two forms of that. One is, please retire my character. I'm not going. I don't want to be here anymore, and I don't want him on anymore. But the other we get is, please retire my character. I want to try something new.
Sure.
And I'm going to be honest. In just about every case we've done that, it's worked out great. Because Alistair, Minwanu, Necrom, and Draco are all new characters of existing members. And they all have great stories. And it's just the player was like, I want to do something new. And I'm like, all right.
Well, it comes down to, okay, are you retiring yourself or are you retiring the character? Okay, right. You're retiring the character.
Yeah.
How do you want to go out? Do you want to just, fade off and just not be booked anymore? Or do you want to make a thing out of it?
Well, and some of those were great. When we did the shift between Alpha Kong and Alistair, we did an entire retirement angle with Alpha Kong. And that became a big deal. You had people were kind of getting emotional in the tributes to Alpha Kong. And then, a little bit later, he comes back with Alistair. And, you see where they are now. He's currently a champion. Same with Flyboy deciding, Snig deciding, I want to retire Flyboy. And then comes back with Necrom. It's, and a lot of it can come down to, the player just feels they've done all they can do with the character. And so we give them a new one. And, I think the most recent example is the shift, Mega Rider retiring and incoming Draco. And, Draco's part of a big story right now. Once we got some seasoning on him. So I think it's a thing I like about the community, because it shows, you can want to be done with the character and not done with the community. And that's great. And then the other thing that happens, and we do it all the time, is characters deciding to go, for various reasons to the other show.
Yeah, scheduling.
Yeah, scheduling. I mean, that was, there were reasons why, when you think about it, what? Because we've acquired Johan and the Ghosts and Jagger and Tommy Black and you look at all of how many of our guys came over from Flashbang, but then how many of people that started out on Warzone have moved over to Flashbang.
Matt?
Yeah, and it's fine because again, it's a shared universe. And sometimes, yeah, it's a scheduling things, and sometimes it's the player saying not that they're done with their character, but they think they've done all they can do with them on the show they've been on. So, and this is why I feel, again, one of the tags I put on MNW during a regular show on Twitch is role-playing. It's a role-play. We are doing a role-playing game. Just instead of dice, we're using this video game. Yeah, and like Meister was saying a little bit ago, don't know if you'll ever retire. Yeah, sure. I mean, as long as you're enjoying yourself, that in the end is the big factor. Are you having fun?
Oh yeah, Caliban. Not gonna lie, that thing I was telling you that I've been wanting to get.
I'm sorry.
Not gonna lie.
I'm sorry. What was the game? Is actually
the thing I was talking about you before the stream.
Right.
The other thing I've been wanting to get. I'm not gonna lie, a tad conflicted of getting that option and then putting the MNW logo on it.
There you go. That's one of the, because we keep talking about would we ever want to merchandise, and one of the challenges that I pointed out more than once is if we ever did anything, we'd be very limited, and that's
sure.
Because I feel ultimately the only thing that we, and by we I mean you, me, Bosco, and Zacho,
right,
is the logo.
The logo is the easiest to deal with because that's literally just Citric.
Right.
And Citric is awesome.
But, for example, I don't know, I don't feel, and here's the Blitzkrieg, I don't feel we could legitimately do a lot with merchandising of the characters, because in the end, I feel that we have to acknowledge that the characters are owned by the players.
Sure.
At least partially, but I'd say there's a strong argument for wholly. We've had at least one person leave and want us to take the character off the show because they wanted to do something else with it that involved merchandise. And we were like, all right, have at.
Like, dude, go knock yourself out.
But it does mean that, we're never going to be able to, let's put it this way, never do anything for sale. Because, again, rights in something like this become a huge tangle. And it's just easier not to deal with it.
Base. Well, like, you could do different variations on the logo, different items, you put on a hat, t-shirt, at whatever.
Sure.
But outside of that, it would have to be variations on the logo.
Yeah.
And that would be about as far as we could go with that.
Yeah.
The only other thing would be text.
Oh,
like, if you put up slogans or tag team names, but you actually don't put up their images.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could put up just a t-shirt that says absolute units and just leave it at that, or put up some clip art, some generic, whatever, but we couldn't use anything from the game.
Yeah. I know at one point, I don't know if he did it for both shows. I know he did it for Flashbang characters. I know that Travis made some logos for various of the teams and factions.
Oh, I have them. Some of them. Most of them, I think.
Yeah, so stuff like that does exist. And then, of course, we've got...
But again, that gets into, well, that's Travis's designs.
Yeah, and again, that's where all those things get to.
While the MNW logo, like, we've gotten several times Citric saying he's fine with it, so...
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, that's just one of those, we think musingly sometimes, which I would argue in the end is not why we do this.
I mean, I'm about to need some money, so...
Yeah, no, I get it. One of the... Yeah.
Open up a merch shop out of my RV.
Yeah, there you go. Because part of what I was thinking, when we were talking about people changing shows, and of course there's the whole how I ended up being the showrunner for Warzone. Which
I'm consolidating my hard drives, and I came across our firing line folder.
Oh man. I mean, I know I've saved a whole bunch of stuff from that, so yeah.
Yeah, that was how you got Warzone.
Well, and again, it was just the progression is I started streaming. And then on some weird thing I was doing, I think I was streaming I want to say I was streaming Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. And it just hit me of, hey, here's an idea. I could do a thing about, and I was thinking specifically of an old show called Tuesday Night Titans.
Right.
Although I know a lot of people compared it to Talking Smack.
Which was basically what Saturday Night was.
And, I did it, then you, because you gave me useful feedback, joined in. And
oh, God. So for anybody that doesn't know, what essentially happened is he did an episode, and for whatever reason, because I have audio-video background, I sat and watched the thing with a notepad. I felt, in hindsight, a little bad about it, because I wrote down this list, and I was like, okay, here's how you can make the show better. And one of the things was get a co-host, because it works better when you have somebody to work off of. And then me and him started doing the show together.
Yeah. And we'll just finish the story while I'm setting up. Then I don't know why it wants to make these two in a rivalry match, but okay, whatever. It got to the point where, and it's funny because what ultimately happened was Takahata was doing a lot of VTubing, and it was growing, and he was running out
taking up most of his time.
Yeah, he was running out of bandwidth, and it was definitely affecting Warzone.
Yep.
And so there was a lot of discussion going on, and eventually it just became hey, I don't think I can do this anymore. And the upshot with that was, well, how would you feel about someone taking it over? And this is what happened. Yes, but the only person I trust is Caliban.
Well, he was like, I've seen what Caliban's done. I have a good feeling that handing it off to him is the right decision, is going to keep the show going as best as possible. And because, like, the little side thing with that is of course, because I think I was a mod. I don't think I'd officially started working for Kurt at that point, but he was getting bandwidth, and he was asking me. He's like, "Hey, if I talk, what do you think would happen if I asked Caliban?" And I was like, that's not a bad idea, and I kind of facilitated a bit the whole conversation and helping getting everything figured out how the transition would happen.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the biggest difference, I would say, is, well, because Kurt did everything himself.
He was kind of set on that.
Yeah, and I think
which is just, hey, that was his style.
Yeah, and I think that's part of but it's also part of what I think burned him out.
Sure.
Where we very much divide the duties of. I always think of it as, I guess the best way to put it is, as the showrunner, I feel I'm the producer because I'm doing the actual stream. But the show itself is 90% written by Zacho. And I say 90 because, he comes in with most of the booking and then Tim and I give input. And that...
Well, he typically, like, the card in particular is largely him.
Mm-hmm.
And then most of what happens during the card is him. And we come in with narrative suggestions and flavor. But the general framework is largely Zacho.
Right. But then, of course, the added spice is, since I'm the one in the moment and it's a loose script, a lot of the minutia is whatever I'm thinking at the moment.
Yeah, Zacho will give us notes, like general direction of, like, here's what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
But that's it.
I'll give you hang on, let me find one. I want to read you guys a note from, because it's already happened. So I'm going to read you a note. This is the note I got from Zacho for the Sasquatch Wing versus Necrom match. And it says, Sasquatch is looking to prove himself a warrior by winning the first ever singles title in the wake of Raphael's betrayal. While Necrom wanted to challenge, this challenge to put his humanity up against a true beast. A hard-fought battle, but in the end, in a shock, Sasquatch wins and Necrom suffers his first ever singles loss. That's the entire note, and that's a typical note I will get from Zacho on a match. And then for a promo, another promo, let me give you an example because you've all seen this one, from the Go Home show. This is the exact note I got for the Jaunt Tristan promo. Jaunt impressed with TPK's performance, but still sees Dagrick and Gorm as useless clowns who beat up a bunch of no-names. Dag comes out and officially lays down the challenge to end it with the Dark Lords in a tavern brawl match. Jaunt agrees and assures that, like every party of heroes, they will fall to the great Vampire Lord. That's it.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then I take that and then the promo, happens as I'm watching the recording, which I do. I look at them ahead of time, but there's no way to, because of how generic the recordings are, there's no way to get the timing down ever. It's kind of annoying. So I'll just be there and doing it and improvising and then going with whatever I see on screen. And sometimes if it feels like I abruptly end thing, it's because I missed the timing and went, oh shit, and now it's ending. All right, fine. So yeah, that's how a show's written.
And as we talked about the Nexus protocol, I will typically keep the spreadsheet open on one of my monitors, which will just give me a general idea of the card. Mm-hmm. And so I can kind of just follow that top to bottom and just read off everything. And I got notes, what kind of match, all that. So.
And occasionally, if there's something weird, Tim and I will go over the parts of the match before the show.
War games.
Yeah, war games so he could see the timing on how long the rules are on the screen.
Man, I lucked out on that.
Yeah. The other one was making sure you saw the entrance of McCheese. So you saw how that was going to happen for the special guest ref. So things like that. Other than that, it's largely just whatever. And I feel ultimately I do miss having Canada, because it was really nice to have somebody to bounce off of. And what we kind of learned was Canada and I can bounce off of each other because of our different energies. But when Tim and I try and do it, it ends up being a lot of collisions because our energies are at a different sync. Which is largely us trying to kind of be at the same level. So.
I'm back. So I had to run to the loo. I need to cut down on the Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Sorry. Now, of course, one of the other things that'll happen that can be real. Sometimes you'll notice, it's like Caliban's not talking that much. Usually because I'm dealing with some technical thing.
Yep.
Which is just, or conversely, sometimes it's just I'm running out of steam and I'm trying to conserve my energy.
Or you need a sip of something. See, Vegeta, I was going to make that joke of like, I need to lay off the Coca-Cola. That little pause.
I mean, I think that's always a good joke.
I mean, hell, my sinuses are sitting down. I'm going. I swear this game in fucking bring out.
Oh, they're going out. Yeah.
No, I'm just like, that just reminded me of it. The double DQs, the Galaxy Brain tactic.
There is something about the AIs that they like to go outside.
Yep.
And it's just, and there are things, and here's the thing, that each game, one of the things that 2K has been approving over the last couple of years is the pathing. Because it used to be that pathing was messed up, and so, for example, there's wrestlers just couldn't find their way back into the ring.
There have been a couple of times that's happened on this one, but it's nowhere near.
No.
You could almost set your watch by it in the earlier game.
Right. But the weird thing it has gained is if the legal man is thrown out of the ring, the opponent will then immediately want to target their partner at ringside. So that's something we've had to work with. Yeah, for example, we're up to a 4 count now. And again, hit Mega Buster. And yeah, you know, they're wanting to do the damage outside. And it's not until at least hits 5 before they'll even think of getting back in the ring.
Well, they get stuck in their patterns. And then they can't break out of it in time to fight the count.
Mm-hmm. All right, and a cyber stunner into a... All right.
Hey, at least I caught it.
Yeah.
Hell, we've had problems with that before.
Well, again, it's an RNG just like anything else. And RNG giveth, and RNG taketh away. But, I mean, one of the reasons we even do RNG matches, well, one, unless it's a pay-per-view, Zacho doesn't have the bandwidth to record every match. And, of course, the other is occasionally RNG gives us a gift, like the, you know, the current storyline between Osman Killick and Tiki the Troll.
Yeah, we'll occasionally get a result from one of these RNG matches and kind of at our next meeting go, hey, do we want to try and run with this?
Yeah. And then it's speaking of targeting. All right, let's see if he can get it this time. There it is. Got the blue screen locked in. But Sawyer is a tough SOB.
He sure is.
I think I got to remember at some point in 24, I need to, and when we switch over to 25, I really need to take some time and go in and add some custom signage to the crowd. And I think when I say custom signage, I think it would just be MNW logos and a smattering of lows but wide.
Sure. By God. By God. I'll be honest, I love JR, but let's give him let's let him rest. He's done it long enough.
Yeah.
Let the man rest.
You know, you'll be surprised, El Robot, what things will get in there and just don't come up that often.
Malice doesn't have Move Thief, do they?
I'm sorry, what?
Malice, they don't have Move Thief, do they?
I don't know. I haven't looked at
Because
him
I'd
for
say
that
maybe
long.
that it was a Rosso.
Oh, by God. Yeah, you're right. You know, it's so easy to do the Jim Ross isms because they're so big and memorable.
It's gotta be Kane.
That one's forever. Okay, and what do we got next? Oh, actually, we got next. I need to take a break.
And of course, the all-time most quoted one. And God is my witness, that man's broken in half. Or so, I think that was.
That's a big one, but I think also I'm all beating him like a government mule.
Right.
I mean, there's some of them that I'm like, that was, I'm there. It's the whole. I bet that was a much more common saying in a bygone era. Anyway, I'm gonna
Sure.
run to the restroom real quick. Are you gonna stay here, or what do you want to handle?
Yeah. I'll see what I can do here.
All right. I'll be right back. Yeah, again, this is usually why the commercial break happens. It's like I gotta go. It's a long show. All right, I'll be back.
Yeah, it allows us to both go to the bathroom, refresh our beverages, do whatever we need to. And it's good because it's usually timed out so we know exactly down to the second how long, well, not second, but pretty much of how much time we have to be away. It's the same over in the other streams too. They're all timed out, all of our breaks. That was usually 5 minutes. Oh, it's so close. Oh, that's right. He has to start. Ignore me. That's one of the other like. It's not a bad issue per se, but it is one of the things that's a factor. Is of course Caliban's on West Coast. I'm on East Coast, so it's 10:30 for me, and it's what 7:30 for him. So I'm a little closer to tired, but like I said, it's not usually that big of an issue because I'm closer to nocturnal, but still, I do start wearing out at a certain point.
Run around and then you gotta get out.
Oh, think I hear him. Think he's coming back. Oh, animal got loose. Studio.
And I'm back.
Welcome back.
My dog wanted to join us. It's like, this is the reason the door's closed. Because if I open it up, you'll come in with a squeaky toy. It's sometimes I swear the game will sometimes just throw moves on a character that aren't programmed in for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I do not know. Well, Westwind isn't currently part of a team. So RNG went, we'll throw them with somebody. Why are they throwing them with XR Kun? I have no idea.
Also, yes, a couple of people have pointed out I do try when I need to borrow from one Triple H, because when you're trying to carry something out and it's meant to be at an abrupt end, just adding to it helps.
Mm-hmm.
Going by the script. Eating my sandwich. Of course, that joke made famous by Wrestling with Regret.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wonder if XR Code's the least changed character in MNW right now.
I don't know.
Like, them and, say, like, Earl King have been mostly... Well, I know XR has been the same the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know...
Well, and also they've been here, since, like, back in the day, so...
I mean, I know they're both still around.
Right. Well, that's why I was saying, like, Locken would be up for competition, but he came later.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, XR's in the lead because he's just been here longer and he has stayed Sith.
Mm-hmm.
Keith, yeah, probably. I imagine even if what's his nuts died, his estate would still be latched onto that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's get ready to. Nope.
I mean, a lot of characters, the only time their costumes change is when it's necessitated by whatever 2K's done this time around. Biggest one I can think of there is Defunct.
Yeah, that one was a little tough.
Yeah.
When we lost the Shockmaster helmet. You could just say it was a real shock.
But well, and XR is one of the, you know, he's a character who is largely based on a very minor character existing in Star Wars canon. Well, it kind of Earl King West is similar because he is got his foundations in the Earl King from the Dresden Files novels,
among other places.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was watching an anime fantasy, and one of the mobs was an Earl King.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Hey, I know you."
And well, it's because, Earl King is a mythological figure. I want to say Germanic in nature.
Right. Well, it's a representation of a character that's got many names, and Earl King is one of the names.
Right. Which apparently literally means King of the Elves. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm looking something up on it now. Which is why, when I'm calling things, I'm very careful to remember, and I've had this discussion with Wes before, that Earl King is the title, Wes is the name.
Right.
Well, and based on what Vegeta is saying in the chat, I kind of think of that too for Red Star Roman. That,
Sure.
Roman is his name, and Red Star is, you tell me, Vegeta, if it's a nickname or a designation. But I do try and keep those things in my head of how these work with people. One of the ones, and I haven't checked in, although I know Meister's in the chat, because to me, I was always going with, and it was a little bit of a gag, that for Pain, that his rank is Sergeant, and his first name is Major.
Right.
Yeah, and that he could conceivably get promoted to Major West, or General Major West, things like that.
Yeah, it's kind of the old airplane joke.
Oh yeah.
Over, under,
All right, there we go.
Fair enough, Vegeta.
Yeah, no, that works for me. And it works for the character.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it always, it's in recent years we've seen characters where they came in with nicknames and have given themselves real name. Absolute Washington becoming Adonis Washington.
Yep.
Ginger Boy becoming Tommy Black. Which, again, parallels things you'll see in actual wrestling. Somebody was pointing out that Mick Foley is unique in WWE, that he's the wrestler who is known by his real name, not his character, versus, say, Mark Calloway is always going to be the Undertaker to everyone.
Sure.
And, Glenn Jacobs is always going to be Kane, but, regardless of Mankind or Cactus Jack, Mick Foley is just always going to be Mick Foley. But I think that's, looking at some of these evolutions, I mean, that's one of the things. This is something I think Zach was really good at in his booking, is the thinking of how characters evolve and how you want characters to evolve. And, sometimes it's like, okay, it's going to be a surprise evolution, and other times it's going to be a logic, I think one of the, a couple of them, the day he came to us and said, I want to make Louis McDonald a face.
Right.
And we're like, okay. The other one was the whole plan of, doing the whole build-up. Starting from the, once the whole idea of the Gift of Chaos, which, by the way, I don't remember, but I think Nightmare Emperor is in the chat. I don't remember if that was an idea of Nightmare Emperor's or if that was an idea of Zacho's.
I believe that was Zacho who had the idea for the Gift of Chaos, but I think it was like, what can we call it? Well, we'll use, what Nightmare Emperor uses for terminology. We'll call it the Gift of Chaos.
Sure.
So
But
that it's kind of a 50-50.
yeah. But the point is, it did take what is otherwise a a lower mid card belt and give it weight because it could lead to a big shot. And that was the vehicle for us to do a major boost. Well, part of a major boost to the entire Absolute unit stable, but in particular to TJ, where, and it is the whole, TJ Gable basically came roaring out of the mid card and became a headliner. And that's again something you see in wrestling plenty of times. And the biggest difference I always joke with us is, we do a lot more planning.
Terrible. I think I'm actually going to watch that McMahon series later after this.
I mean, if
it's not the greatest miniseries. It's entertaining, but
still,
there are four. The Vice documentary on Vince McMahon is much more comprehensive, and if you've watched that, you know more than they talk about in the McMahon on Netflix.
Sure.
That being said, the Netflix one is more entertaining because it's Netflix.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want a straight up like doc on McMahon, yeah, the Vice one that's out there.
That makes a lot of sense, though.
Oh yeah.
I think the I don't know. It's interesting because, I've been a wrestling fan since, well, the 80s. And although I became much more of a fan during the Monday Night Wars. And, the amount where, kayfabe has, while it still has its place, it, you also have fans able to enjoy wrestling without believing in the kayfabe. I remember going to events in the 90s and watching people. I was like, you're going to give yourself an aneurysm.
Yeah.
Also, I remember at one point I was like, dude, I don't think Dustin Rhodes is actually gay.
It's weird because I don't in particular remember a specific moment like in my childhood when I went, oh, wait a sec. One of the things that the difficulties that I find with kayfabe is one of the things that I find unique about wrestling is the interaction with the fans. Other events, other performances, you don't have you're not gauging what you do off of the fans. There's not that interaction. Oh, the crowd's going wild. Okay, I need to keep doing this. There isn't that. It's very unique to wrestling. But I also think that leads to a personal connection with the fans. And that mixed with let's be honest, a lot of wrestlers saying you guys don't know what this is like. Going, well, I'd love to learn.
Yeah.
And, at that point, it's, kayfabe starts drifting. And it's like, you have to have that suspension of disbelief because, if you want to learn all of the secrets, quote unquote, and you still want to enjoy wrestling, you got to have that suspension of disbelief.
Sure. The weird thing is, while you were talking about that got me thinking, and again, this is, and everyone forgive me, you all know I'm autistic and I have hyperfixations. But it reminds me of some stuff I've seen with Dungeons & Dragons actual play live shows. And the different styles that exist within that. And I'm thinking of 3 different ones in particular, although they're all very interconnected. And that is Critical Role, Acquisition Incorporated, and Dimension 20.
Yeah, no, definitely the, again, like Taka used to say, the correlation between wrestling and role playing, table, it is very similar in the performative aspect of it.
Oh, yeah. I was just, and the game just had a fuck up that I would have had to have
2K.
covered. No, because with Critical Role is doing a live show. It's very much theater.
Yep.
And when Acquisition Inc. Does a live show, it's still largely theater, but they have some call and respond with the audience. But when Dimension 20 does a show, the vibe is much less theater and much more sporting event.
Right.
So with Dimension 20, and I've seen them live, they'll do things like every time somebody rolls a nat 20, their producer comes out with a t-shirt cannon. And the GM will address the audience. And they have a thing where there's an app the audience can use to influence rolls. So it's got more of that sports interaction and kind of what you're talking about, the interaction with the fans, which is probably telling how Dimension 20, when they do their shows, they're largely going to sports venues. Whereas when Critical Role does shows, they're largely going to theaters.
Right.
And Dimension 20 not Dimension 20, Acquisition Inc. is almost always a presentation at a convention. And so it's how they've chosen to represent themselves, but the fact that they can still do it, and also, as you said, there's this very much this feel of, and I remember having conversations with Kurt about it myself, of the correlation of the role playing, which again, I treat this as a role playing game.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, all of these guys have input on their characters, and but like,
well, and I appreciated the term that Kurt used as collaborative role playing.
Yeah. So, hey, Sen, how's it going? Yeah, I mean, it's a dark. We're doing the thing. Yeah. So there is some callback, and we don't get I can't hear the audience live. Unlike I couldn't do what Bosco does.
Yeah.
Bosco has a setup.
It messes with my autism too much.
Yeah. Bosco has a setup where he can listen, and this might come from, I don't know, from a voice actor skill or what, but he'll be listening to the live chat while doing the show. If I did that, I would not be able to do anything because I'd start focusing in. Like you said, it messed with my autism too much.
I'd want to stop and listen to what somebody is saying.
Right. I couldn't divide my attention like that. Which is really interesting because well, I don't believe in multitasking. I think that some people have the ability to move from task to task rapidly, and that creates the illusion of multitasking, but I think you can only focus on one thing at a time. And myself, I can only focus on one thing at a time. Which is why
So there is an actual. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, which is why when I'm dealing with a technical issue, all of a sudden Jerry isn't commenting as much.
So there's an actual audio science thing to that, and it's colloquially known as the cocktail party effect. And that is the fact that the brain is not able. You can switch back and forth and hear bits of different conversations, but you cannot simultaneously keep track of two separate conversations without going back and forth. It's your brain can't comprehend that.
Yeah,
that's called the cocktail party effect.
That makes sense. So, okay, one more nerd thing related to that, and then we'll get into the next thing. I want to say it was during one of the reboots of Legion of Superheroes. You had the character of Brainiac 5.
Yeah.
And one of the things they always said about Brainiac 5 is he had a 12th level intelligence, which was supposed to be, and what in one issue Brainiac described it as is, I'm a genius because my brain has 12 different tracks. And one track can be doing one thing and another track can be... And so Brainiac 5's superpower is literally being able to multitask.
Yep.
And it's like... But even in there, it is explained as a superpower that he can do. And it actually, he used it once to mess up somebody because he had the forefront track dealing with... He was fighting a telepath.
Right.
And... he had it set up so the telepath was only picking up one of the tracks, not realizing there were others. And so he was doing all of his strategic planning on one of the deeper tracks.
Right.
Well, yeah, Wandervis, because again, they're treating Brainiac 5 as if he's got a brain more like a computer. So yeah, actual multitasking. Anyway, just one of those things I always thought, well, that's cool with the character. And that is one of those, that would be an absolute superpower.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was one of those things I learned about at Full Sail when I was getting my recording degree. It was the little stuff like cocktail party effect.
Oh, sure. No, I remember. I've done theater, and I am doing some recording stuff now. In fact, this upcoming Saturday, I'm going to be recording my my bits for the upcoming season of Paladin's Bargain, and it's one of the things is crowd scenes, and there's two ways to do a crowd scene, and one is to have members of the crowd actually have dialogue, which is fine, but that generally you're going to need to have people actually talking to each other then.
Right.
The other is just to say certain words that'll fill. One of the things I always find funny, and it was really prominent, they made a joke about it in an episode of The Monkees. One of the most common things, especially in theater, if you want to have crowd sound, you have a bunch of people saying rhubarb off sync from each other.
So, and if anybody is curious what that is called Walla. Because that term, in fact, was one of the things that used to be used. Walla, 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 walla.
Walla, yeah. Walla Walla, Washington.
Yes.
Other side of the state. Where Adam West was born, interestingly enough.
But yeah, so any sort of repetitive sound that you use just to make it look like you're conversing is called Walla.
Right. Oh, last thing about Walla. Walla Walla, Washington was where Richard Garfield was teaching college while he was developing Magic the Gathering. All right.
Ah. Maybe one of these days they'll get belt fitting right.
No, I'm sorry, what?
One of these days they'll get belts to fit right.
Wouldn't that be lovely? Oh, I gotta remember. Okay, I just because of Washington stuff, I gotta remember to on Thursday when we talk to Zacho, I gotta make sure he knows what's going on I-5. So Seattle always. One of the things about living in Seattle is traffic is hell because our infrastructure sucks. And I-5, which I-5 is the freeway that goes all the way from California to Canada. And there's a stretch through downtown Seattle that 2 of the northbound lanes are going to be closed most of this year.
Oof.
Getting into Seattle or going northbound on I-5 is going to be a nightmare.
Sounds it.
And should be avoided at all costs. Which you've heard Zacho complain about dealing with traffic around here before because he's only been in the state a year. He has yet to go over the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. Or at least he hadn't as of Christmas. But that's because where he lives, getting into nearer to where I live, he's only been to my mother-in-law's house yet. He hasn't actually come. We talked about we need to have him over for dinner at our house proper one of these days.
Oh yeah.
He always comes the back way, which is like, yeah, he hasn't gone over old Galloping Gertie yet. I've shown him the video.
Is that thing protected now? Like, is that like a landmark? You know, they can't tear it down.
So here's the deal: the original bridge, the original Galloping Gertie, completely collapsed and is lying underwater in Puget Sound.
Okay, so it's a new bridge.
Yeah, the bridge that now exists is a bridge of similar design, but better design, and actually is 2 bridges now.
Okay.
And it's so that each bridge is going a different direction.
But is it now appropriately misnamed?
I mean, it is still what it was always legally called, which was the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. Just because,
but it doesn't gallop anymore.
It doesn't gallop anymore. Well, it gallops because the reason that happened was the stupidest reason of all time. People didn't like seeing the beams under the bridge that were there for support, and they wanted them covered up. And so they put wood paneling over them, which became like a wing so that when a hard wind came through, it caught them and it caught the wing and shook the bridge apart. Whereas now it's just like, nope, nothing like that there at all. So
now it's more like a normal bridge.
It's a normal bridge. My father-in-law, actually, the company he works for, does erosion inspection for bridges as one of their contracts.
Ooh, food's here. Be right back.
Okay. Wand, the things about the Pacific Northwest. I mean, every state's got its weird things. And that's just some of ours are like, okay. It's funny, and I don't know. You'd have to tell me in other states how much of the weird stuff happens on a rich people just didn't like. Rich people complained. A lot around here can often be boiled down to rich people didn't like it. That is also true, El Robot. We are where weird things go to happen. Look, there's a reason all those weird things like Twin Peaks or Gravity Falls take place in the Northwest.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
With Little Caesars.
Pizza, pizza.
Oh, I can... Look, Texas is it... Look, as we all know, Texas deep down is its own country. And so, yeah, I can see the rivalries to different parts of Texas. I mean, on Sunday streams, you've heard me go on about the weird oddities of the Pacific Northwest fueled by, Washington and the Seattle area in particular were formed by people trying to do quick get-rich schemes.
See, I avoid delving too deep into my area's history because, boy, if you start delving into the history of South Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just kind of looking at. Yeah. Anyway, I was just looking at our mix of wrestlers here. We've got Alba. I don't know how early into MNW he was, or Gorm. I know they were definitely early day guys. Then we've got Ignacio, who I want to say was another of the Adoptables. Brad, correct me if I'm wrong. And then Jagger, who was one of the Flashbang transfers. And I always like to point out, interestingly enough, Alba is one of the reasons I really got into MNW. The first ever MNW episode I saw, and the first ever MNW match I saw, was Apocalypse and the finale of the Wish Upon a Brawl tournament, in which Alba was part of the team that won Wish Upon a Brawl. And I remember looking at him going, it's unique. And I also, I was a wrestling fan, and I'd played the 2K games before. And seeing somebody run a show based on the 2K games, I was like, hey, this is interesting. I'm going to start checking this out. And now I'm running the show, so interesting how that happened.
I know, right?
Which is why I have a little bit of nostalgia for the whole Wish Upon a Brawl concept. And always want to find reasons for somebody to have a wish. Which, now that the wish has been cashed in, we need to talk to Zacho about what we're going to do for a wish now. I think I'm going to want to have a tournament. I'll see if I can sell him that idea. Knowing him, he probably already has an idea of his own. I don't know if we're going to get away with what we did before, because what I've liked, and this is a case of me adapting things that were done back when Kurt ran the show. And then my thing is, though, love Kurt, but Kurt loved to make things really complex. And so I've always liked taking his ideas and making them simpler. And I love the idea of doing the grand battles, the various Rumble-style matches, and then getting a pool of combatants for that to then have the Wish Upon a Brawl. All right. All right. Sorry, I was just Decided to go put it in there myself. I just wrote down Wish Upon a Brawl tournament. Because one of the things I don't know that we've ever done quite enough with the Wish Upon a Brawl tournament, and I know we tease, because I think people I always try and sell it, and I think people never latch on to how it's supposed to work. Because, you know, when we were talking about if Theron gets the wish, and he was acting like, I'm going to use the wish to get unbanned from Flashbang, which is like, yeah, that's possible. But it's not just saying I'm unbanned. It's saying I want to have a match. And if I win the match, I'm unbanned from Flashbang. That's how Wish Upon a Brawl works. And then it could just be against somebody he thinks he can win. Like, I want to have a match against one of the local talent. I think we would almost at least have to make the rule it has to be a member of the roster. But like, I want a match against Buck Bumble, and if I win, I'm unbanned from Flashbang. So, Tim, when did you start? When did you join MNW? What was your entry into this? And I know you've told me in the past. I'm just not remembering.
No. So my bit goes back to the waifu wars.
Right.
So Taka had a streaming schedule, and one of the nights was the waifu wars, and that's where he was playing Valkyrie Profile, I think it is, or Valkyrie Chronicle.
Right.
And he had hit a wall. He was getting fed up, pissed off at it, and he was ready to switch to something else. And he switched over to 2K19. So I followed from that.
Right. Yeah, because I remember, and you may have been the one that told me about the waifu wars. Although I know he has mentioned it to me.
Right.
And yeah, I love it. It was all like, oh, I want content. So,
well, of course, it started with him going through the campaign.
Sure.
And what happened was he started playing through with it and, you know, doing the whole thing of getting booted off both Raw, SmackDown, getting booted off all these shows.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we went with Lucha Underground.
Yeah. So for a little more in depth for some of the newer community members. So when Kurt started playing 2K19, which he started playing it in 2018, because that's how that used to work for the release schedule. He did the campaign, and then Trashman Jones was his campaign character. And then I think he started on Raw. And he would always end up with a match of, if I lose this match, I'm leaving Raw. Lost the match.
Right.
Damn, goes to SmackDown. If I lose this match, I'm leaving SmackDown. Damn. Then he went into universe mode and made a Lucha Underground arena. And then he was wrestling in Lucha Underground. And that's when people watching said, hey, I made a character for 2K19. Can I send you my character? You throw him into the Lucha Underground? Yeah, sure. And so that's how some of the early MNW people, I want to say, I think Fear Strike was part of that. And I know Grimm was part of that.
Right. Well, the thing is that it started with his friends.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't fully opened up to the community.
Mm-hmm.
It was very case by case basis, but it was one of those. Well, we're adding this character.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we add this character? And it just kept going.
Sure. That's why a lot of these.
Because originally we had Engie,
right?
and they were like one of the first.
And then there was, some of the unexpectable players were getting involved. And,
yeah.
Yeah. Which is,
and that you had Arkolf, of course.
Sure.
And
then, you got in people like Bosco and
right.
And then eventually it was like, hey, let's turn this into its own thing, and that's when MNW was born. Which by that time it was actually 2019, and that's why we always say MNW was born in 2019, and that's how we mark the age. Even though in universe it's been longer because Kurt used to run 2 shows a week, and sometimes those shows he would do 2 episodes of MNW during a stream.
So he would do a total of 4 shows in 1 week.
And so 1 week in real life was a month in MNW. And that's why there were 3 Multivanias before the birth of Flashbang in the summer of 2019, because by that time it was the realization of we need another show because too many people want to join. And because I know I was one of those people. I was like, I made a character. I followed all the rules. I threw it up. And
yeah.
But there were enough people waiting to fill another show. And that's when Bosco went, okay, I'll
Gee, Blackthorn, you don't say.
Yeah, really, dude. Well, and I don't know if you were here for the earlier conversation where that burnout is why I'm running the show now.
Yep.
Kurt was just, he had no more bandwidth to run MNW. And part of the argument there was, and part of, like Tim said, he, the 2 of them talked, and it was he wanted me to take over the show because part of it was he trusted me to keep things solid for the community. And I mean, there was a drop off because obviously I'm not going to be as popular as Takahata 101. But we've still maintained a pretty healthy community. So that is, mission accomplished, really.
Yeah.
And it's, but yeah, it's fun sometimes going over. Yeah, this is where it's really interesting how it started and what it's evolved into.
Sure.
And I mean, I have 1, 2, 3. I have just so you guys know, I have 4 different Discords I'm part of. 3 Discords and an ongoing discussion group directly dedicated to MNW. One of them we don't really use anymore because the War Table has kind of taken it over.
Right.
I might want to mention that. I don't know who owns that. Hang on, I want to look at this. I don't know who the owner of that one is. I can discuss it with Zacho on Thursday. Anyway, yeah, that's well, and that's one of because the issue Kurt was running into that prompted the creation of Flashbang was the 100 character limit. And this includes having some NPCs. And so creating the second show, a couple of existing Warzone characters were bled off over to Flashbang. And then all of the people who were waiting in the wings, waiting for a slot to open up on what became Warzone, were able to debut. Well, Blackthorn, you're not wrong.
Well, and this was part of the problem, is because even if that was the case, he could have said no.
Yeah.
And that was just something that he was always he always struggled with. He wanted to do everything that everybody asked, he couldn't.
Do I remember when Maelstrom became a thing? Not really. Maelstrom, I'm trying to decide what. I don't know when Maelstrom happened. I don't remember. That honestly, unless Tim can remember, I think that's kind of a Bob question, and he's not here right now.
I mean, I remember being around for it, I think, but I don't remember a specific moment. I just kind of, it's just like, it was there.
Yeah, it just sort of happened. And, yeah, I mean, and I was involved. Back when I had time, I was involved.
Well, and of course, this was how a number of us were spending our quarantine, essentially.
Yeah, it's true.
As one thing, I remember how smug Taco was. Because here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was like started 2020, right?
Right.
Late 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Like September, October, he started going off on, you guys need to start stocking up on shit. You start getting, and everyone's like, yeah, okay, Kurt. Oh, when that shit hit, he was like, motherfucker, I told you.
Well, and here's the thing. When it hit, I remembered that. I said, God, this is exactly what Taka was saying.
Yep.
Well, and that's, there's a lot of reasons people show up, Wand. And yeah, for some people, Maelstrom was the gateway drug. There was a time early on, there were so many spin-offs.
Oh, yeah.
You had Maelstrom. You had, was it TKW? Which one was TKW, Sean's? There were two.
I believe so, because I think that was Trash King Wrestling.
Yeah. And then there was another one that I can't remember the acronym that was run by Jake. And then, of course, we had RIW, Roll Initiative Wrestling, run by Connor, which I loved because it was all D&D themed. And every time a match would start, Connor would say Roll Initiative. And that's where Rapture New Road actually came from.
One of the other things was you had Arkolf's Crucible.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember the name of the other one. It was a winter.
Well, there was a bunch. There's one that we don't talk about because of redaction.
Anyway, so
yeah.
like I said, Arkolf had his two shows that he did, which ended up contributing into MNW and eventually led to Arkolf being pretty much the sole person making every damn character. Because people kept coming to him specifically because all of his characters were so good.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, and then Zacho's Fed, which evolved into Tiger Dojo. And I still think it's funny, everyone. So, long-timers will know that especially in Maelstrom and Zacho's. Yeah, UCW. In UCW and Maelstrom, there were a lot of variants for Zacho or Zacho-like characters, essentially a lot of Gundams. And one that would show up a lot was based on Tequila Gundam. And there would always be a lot of hooting and hollering when Tequila Gundam would show up. Zacho has gotten into the Gundam trading card game. And so for Christmas, we have a 3D printer. So my wife printed a bunch of accessories, Dyson card holders, for Zacho's game. And I got him a playmat. And I was looking for, I was just searching Gundam TCG playmats. There was a Tequila Gundam playmat.
Because of course there was.
And it's like, well, I know what I'm getting him.
Why wouldn't there be a playmat of Tequila Gundam?
Yeah, so Zacho has a Tequila Gundam playmat for the Gundam TCG, and he was so happy. Oh, he loved it. When he opened it, went, oh, yeah. And so that was, that was, a fun little Christmas. I'm trying to think what else there was back. So, yeah, those were some of the fun things that came in the early days of MNW with, just everyone doing. I was briefly thinking about doing a Fed. But I then realized that let's just say the market was saturated.
Also, the accompanied workload.
Yeah, running a Fed there's a reason why MNW is run as a team. Oh. And dag tapped. Yeah, fair enough, Sen.
I forgot how mod works.
Oh, yeah.
I was sitting there looking for the button, and it's like, oh, I have to click on their name first.
Yeah. So that's when I went, oh, hey, and again, with Tim's help, let's do Firing Line. Let's do a show about MNW. And that worked great, until I got the call, hey, can you just take over MNW? I guess.
Well, and I can't for the life of me remember all of it, but like I'd said, I had this just kind of general list because I sat and watched the first show, and I was just like, okay, well, this could have been this, and well, if you did this, and basically I wrote all of it down, and then I contacted Caliban. I was like, hey, do you mind if I send you some notes on the show?
Yeah, I was like, the thing is, I was a theater kid, so I am geared to accept feedback, and
so there's a number of things, and we gradually started adding to them, and yeah.
Well, because the things that worked for Firing Line, and when there is a part of me that is a little sad that Firing Line could not be maintained, because then Joe and Wand took it over for a while. But again, it is work.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that, part of what I liked was it was a good encapsulation of MNW for that week, so that people could very quickly get caught up. But it was also a time when a lot of people were doing a lot of their character development on Warzone, because one of the things we are on Firing Line, because one of the things we allowed people to do was we had a place where they could queue up to be brought into our chat and appear in character as whatever. And we got Hard Luck as Scott E. Stevens was a regular on that, and who else showed up a lot? Joe.
Well, just in general, it was a good
Oh yeah.
chance for people to give a creative outlet for
Yeah.
building their character.
Yeah, and Joe Mojo was doing the interview segment that he would pre-record. Yeah, Twitch and Sean were there all the time. And we'd get Bosco showing up. Bosco helped us a lot in the early days, figuring out some of the nuances of getting OBS to behave with what we were trying to specifically do. And then just kind of pitching in every once in a while, doing character stuff.
And of course, we got Canada, and we started getting extra. And well, of course, we also had Travis before that.
Yeah,
who was helping a lot with the we had all of the commercials back then, and yeah.
And so it was it was fun, and it, and it worked out. It's also how we were able to eventually get a lot of archives to put stuff up on the YouTube channel.
Yep.
And then, but it was one of those, once I was asked to take over Warzone, it's like, well, I'm not going to have bandwidth for both.
Well, we had already seen what happened to somebody trying to do it all themselves.
No. The only thing that worked out was the fact that because of Firing Line, I already had the character of Jerry.
Right.
And so it was just a matter of evolving Jerry to become, to do the announcing and all his other character stuff. And I don't know why I went, let's make him the general manager. Which there are times when it's like, it might have been a bit much, because then we always have to have the brass overruling Jerry. But yeah, it works out at times. But Jerry was easy because Jerry was a character I had in a role-playing game in the 90s with some friends of mine that was a WWF had a role-playing game in the 90s that we got. And let me tell you something. This role-playing game had some good ideas, but also had some problems. However, all of us playing that game worked at Wizards of the Coast. So we took the game and we kept the parts that worked, and we homebrewed solutions to the problems. Which one of the simplest was minis. So we could actually measure distance. And Jerry was just one of my characters in that game.
Well, we had the conversation, and I think you kind of were already on board. Like you said, you had theater background. That basically, one of the best things you can do if you have the option as a character is to go to something you're familiar with.
Oh yeah.
Because you're more than likely to respond. Like if I'd go, "Hey Jerry," he's more than likely going to respond because he's got that connection. That's why I went with Pete. There's period of years that a lot of people in my neighborhood, including my mother, called me Pete. So it's still to this day, if somebody says Pete, I can respond to it.
Yeah. Well, and as for why there's not people are constantly making wrestling role-playing games, Sen. The problem is creating one. No one has created one with staying power. And I think that is largely because it's a tricky thing. How do you simulate a wrestling match? The game I played they were extended combats, and it was a move for move thing. One player had initiative, and that player would say, I'm going to do an arm bar. And the person without initiative would say, okay, well, if I win the roll, I'm going to be countering with a hip toss. And then you would roll the dice and see what happens and adjudicate that way. And it was a move. Okay, this time I'm going to do, so it was calling individual moves, but done in a way to be able to move very rapidly, where determining the outcome can be done very quickly. I don't know if that's something, if other people have done that. I remember once also taking some of the ideas from that and trying to extrapolate how you would do a wrestling MMO. And even then, what I ended up determining was a wrestling MMO wouldn't work. Just because in an MMO, it's individual progress and not everyone can be world champion.
Exactly.
I did this. I think the idea of that would work wouldn't be an MMO necessarily, but would be more of have a game where, like we're Fortnite, you get into a match and it's, I don't remember how many people are, let's say 20 people.
Sure.
But instead it's like, somebody creates a server. So it also becomes like, how people do Minecraft or,
Right.
I want to call it Vasselheim, but it's not Vasselheim. The Viking one.
Valheim.
Do something like that, where you have a server, and then people join the server, and then whoever's running the server is setting up the game. And then, it's people come in and play the matches against each other and build the fit. Kind of like what we're doing here. Except here, since it doesn't have the ability for everyone to play, we're just having the characters and running them. But I'm not in the video game industry. The closest I get is
I mean, one of the things that one of the thoughts that I have on a tabletop style would be it couldn't function as a kayfabe. It would have to be like if you had members of your party that were staff. So like one of your party members is the producer. I think if you did it like that, and so like your production team is your dungeon party kind of idea, that would be the best way to do something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. Let's get to this. Is our last match of the night. Now here's the thing. This will give you a clue. All Unkley matches during the current storyline have been pre-recorded. Although I'm going to have to get a setup, I think, for a new, for the new Unkley. Yeah. Well, and that's part of it also. Juan, here's the thing. I mean, I will tell you from recent personal experience, just getting a role-playing game group together could be a pain in the ass. I am still amazed that wrestling role-playing game I did in the 90s, that we managed to keep a regular group together for 2.5 years. If we had been a D&D game, we would have been in at least level 16. If not, had made it all the way to level 20. And a lot of that is just, it's always life and schedule. I'm trying to get I'm working to get a group together now. I'm going to be running a home game. But it's a pain in the ass. And then part of how we decided to run the wrestling role-playing game was to fill out a roster each of us, because there was only 3 of us that were regulars, and then other people floated in and out. So all of us had 5 characters. And then we had 5 characters who were what we called the pool characters, which were characters that we would run, but none of us controlled direct, that were just, okay, let's have a match. You get to play, God, who were some of the guys? You know, it's interesting. Rocco Bernelli, I think, was one of the pool characters that we all traded around. Oh, you know who we traded around? The big shot Sammy Ray, who was really easy because his personality was very much Macho Man Savage. And, you know, that's how we were able to get a whole roster together. And what was interesting, Jerry was initially one of the pool characters, but I decided I liked so much, I took him over as my regular character. And then the creation was an idea that came forth when I tried to put a new group together for this whole thing, and we tried, but it just, I couldn't recapture the magic. But I like the idea of a wrestling Frankenstein, so, you know.
Sure.
And thus, here we are.
Yeah, I want to say Unkley was also one of the earlier roster
yeah,
members.
that seems to track.
He may not have been in the first batch, but he might have been in like the second or third. No, probably like second.
I mean, again, he was one of the entire Republic were characters when I first started watching.
Right.
And of course, when we're saying Republic, it was Probanaga, Sir Unkley Dunk, Sir McCheese, and Ozaki. And for people unaware, Ozakim was Gaijin Goomba's character. And then when he left, because Gaijin just stopped paying attention, for a while there was a character named the Blue Dandy, who was in the Republic. So,
yep. And that's, of course, we also had the Legend of Sheepy.
The which one?
Sheepy.
Sheepy. Well, Sheepy, because I remember when Sheepy came around, because I remember they were somebody who got into watched back before Flashbang. We're watching and asked to get a character, and you know, came into the Discord and got God, I want to say, who made Sheepy? I'm trying to remember.
I want to say Arkolf.
Well, I think Arkolf made the moves. I think a lot of the design, because one of the other people that was actually really involved and actually was instrumental in the creation was Wiley.
Oh, right, yeah.
Wiley. I remember when I came with, oh yeah, Defective Sheep was the player. I'm just saying I'm remembering when they came in and how they came in. No, the night I presented, the people where I came and say, hey, I've made a character, can somebody take a look at it and tell me? And I thought I might hear something the next day. 10 minutes, I had X Wily Willy and Night Demon.
Right.
Working with me, and then Bosco showed up. And there was, I can't remember, I want to say there was a 4th person helping, but Yeah, they Night Demon helped with the look. Wiley was doing a lot of testing, and he was largely testing creation against Alba and Azir. And then Bosco came in and took a look at him and identified where a couple of the deficits were. And so that is how, but the initial design was mine, although a lot of the creation's look, my design for the creation was a lot more simplistic than he is now. And Night Demon, because he's the one that added the bandages and added, I did a lot of the face blemish stuff, but he added, I had the, what I always called the autopsy scar.
Right.
He added the scratches and body blemishes. Anyway, that's how. But yeah, that first night, just a whole bunch of people showed up and said, "Hey, let us help."
Well, this is something that was for the way back when. You were mentioning Alba, because Alba became a whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Because originally, when Kurt was doing the show and people would submit their characters, we would have these RNG matches like so.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no oversight.
Mm-hmm.
And so every single character that Alba worked on was beating everybody else. And it had to be like, somebody would come to Alba and say, "Hey, could you work on my moveset?" I would tweak them. Then that person would keep winning, and then so on. And then gradually it was just, okay, everybody has to have their stats made by the same person. We can't have we can't have people overpowered.
Right. Well, and then the other thing that came was when we started coming up with the creation rules. Like, your stat totals can only equal to, back then it was 86, now we've kind of gone to 88 to 90. But there has to be weaknesses in there. And back when there
No
were
resiliency.
there were rules of what you could do to create your character. And of course now, there's a smaller pool of people who make characters, and everything goes through either Zacho or Arkolf.
Well, that's the whole thing. Well, like I said, needed an oversight. We couldn't just kind of let the stats go however they wanted.
No.
Because then to this day, it would still be Alba's everything. He'd just have every belt.
Well, that's also when we kind of had to create the Multivania rule, which we don't adhere to as much anymore, but it's because people aren't asking for it as much as they used to, where you're not allowed to, the idea was you're only allowed one character update between Multivanias.
Well, that was also some of y'all out there were like coming to Kurt like 3 times a day. "Oh, hey, I made an update. Could you re-download him?" Or he'd be doing a show. "Hey, that's not the right version of my character. You need to re-download it." "Well, I just re-downloaded it yesterday." "Yeah, no, but I've already made some changes."
Yeah, so rules had to be made. Yeah, robot, that's a good way to describe it.
It was.
And there you go. And you still see the shadows of those rules, even though things are very different now. But I think it was working fine.
Well, and also this was 2K19. This was back when 2K19 was a beast. Like, the number of bullshit things in it, both positive and negative. Bosco and Arkolf and Grizzly found them all. Probably Bob too.
Yeah.
I mean, Arkolf used to be able to pick a match as Victor pretty early.
Oh yeah.
Just by like just seeing how the game's progressing. Oh, okay, that side's gonna win.
Yeah. Let me double check that. Yeah, that was everything. All right. So yeah, that's I'm just gonna leave it like this because that's how I do it every show. I will at another point because we're kind of at a good night's ending kind of point. But we'll keep the discussion going for a little bit. Yeah, sure. I remember. Well, like I said, the creation was tested against Ozir was one of them, and he was just murdering the creation. And so it needed some work, and then many other the rules, and then 2K20 happened, and that debacle.
Well, that's also where we got the workshop.
Yeah,
that's.
Oh yeah, power submissions just didn't. And it was weird because the Wheel of Pain is a power submission move, and it was one of the few that worked. And I had a whole different. I wanted to do something different initially, and Bosco said it's not going to work. And that's when we were going over things, and I said, "What about this?" And what I was thinking was Wheel of Pain was in my head because it was a line of dialogue said by Frankenstein's monster in the TV show Penny Dreadful. And it was such a powerful, because of the scene it was set in was such a powerful one to me that it locked in. And so that's why that finishing move became the Wheel of Pain. And then the rest were just, Monster Mash and Graveyard Smash are just puns or just jokes on the song. And then Brain Chop is just, hey, there's a Brain Chop and he's Frankenstein's monster. Yeah, it's just how these things work. I still, one of the things that it just drives me nuts, Lock-In can be a fun character, but the most logical name for one of his finishing maneuvers would be the Punchline.
Right.
Except that is the name of one of Ramoon's finishing maneuvers. So I can't use it because I honor the. Okay, guys, I'm gonna bring up something. We've been talking about some of the early days stuff from the early days all night, and all apologies to Kurt, I'm gonna rag on one of his bad habits. One of his character quirks in the early days of MNW. I have never met somebody with such a great ability to look at a name and mispronounce it.
Oh no, you do. You have your moments.
I have my moments, but it's I think the gusto. All right, let's see if I can remember some of them.
Well, let me clarify. This is one of the differences is that Kurt would be told the correct pronunciation and it would not click.
Yeah, we wouldn't care. So I want to go over and some of them we still use the mispronunciation. The prominent one is Helixux. And I've actual verbal talked with Helix. It's supposed to be pronounced Helixus. But Kurt saw it went Helixux, and that's just what's always removed.
Wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yeah. Removed, and it didn't change until he moved over to Flashbang. Removed was Raymond.
Yep.
The one that killed me, was the night, and I was watching that night, the night Burnout Vaughn was introduced. And Tim is laughing because he
Burnout Vaughan.
3 weeks of Burnout Vaughan.
Was it just 3? I feel like it was longer than that.
I think it was just 3 because then Bosco on stream started ragging on him.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that didn't stop him, but
No, I don't know if it
my
stopped
memory.
him, but Bosco started saying the name correctly.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much because remember, Bosco was a heel commentator. And so I think, hey, C-, I'm pretty sure that's pronounced Vaughn.
Well, I want to say that was probably a Multivania.
Might have been.
Because back when we were running full firing line Multivania, we would have all 4 or 5 of us in the same call. So you would have Taka's character with Bosco's character on commentary. And so Kurt would mispronounce a name and Bosco in character would correct him or just pronounce it correctly right next to him.
Yeah. There was one, and I don't remember who it was because the moment I made this comment, it whipped around. He mispronounced someone's name. The person in chat went, that's not how my name is produced. And then I came in very quickly with, you're not part of the club until until Taka has mispronounced your name. And he read that, and his comment was, Caliban, you're right. that's very true. And then got the name correct. So, of course, we had okay. How do I say this? And I mean, they're people will not remember this because it only happened once, and then the character altered. But does anyone remember a character named Dark Lord Popo? I mean, I know
of course.
I know you do. Does anyone else out there remember a character named Dark Lord Popo? He was a member of the Empire of Terror. He started out on Warzone and then moved to Flashbang as part of the Empire of Terror. Now, here's the thing to know about Emperor Popo. He debuted. There's a match, and this match was epic because it introduced this 8-man match. Introduced Burnout Vaughn, Semjax. It had the Blue Dandy. It had Dark Lord Popo, and I think it had somebody else. No, Wanderifers, you're thinking of Dark Lord Prinny.
Yeah, that was another thing we'd end up dealing with. It's like, oh crap, we got 2 Dark Lords here. Yeah.
Dark Lord Popo in his first match was just Mr. Popo from Dragon Ball Z.
Yep.
And of course, Kurt made his name doing Dragon Ball Z Abridged. So, Dragon Ball Z stuff would show up periodically, but he let in Dark Lord Popo, who was just Mr. Popo. And there were 2 reasons why we were like, that can't stay. 1, direct recreation of a character already existing in media. Problematic. 2, Dark Lord Popo's character design is minstrel show. Very problematic. So the very next show, he got completely redesigned. We had another character that also had this thing where they showed up, and then I had to have a message with Bosco because one of the Flashbang originals was a character called Electro Man. And he showed up. The problem is Electro Man, the first time he showed up was an exact recreation of a character named 18 Volt from some Nintendo game. And the issue was, and this was where this like, are you sure you're okay with this, Bosco? Is it's not just that 18 Volt was from a Nintendo game. It's that 18 Volt was voiced by Edward Bosco.
Wow, that's a pull.
Yeah. And, well, it's because the person had come to it because they were a big Bosco fan. Well, they were a big 18 Volt fan, and when they discovered that the voice of 18 Volt was doing a stream, and they could submit a character, they submitted Electroman. It was like, nope, no, we can't do that. So Electroman was another one of very next week got a complete redesign. And these things, and every once in a while, if it's like, when I feel I had more leeway when I made the creation because he was not. There's been a lot of Frankenstein's monsters, and he was not a direct recreation of any of them. And also, I gave the backstory that he was made from the body of dead wrestlers. Little things like that. So you can get away with that. You can get away with characters that are somewhat homages. I mean, Cyber Controller is an homage to characters from Doctor Who. But because he's not a one-for-one recreation, he's more of an homage. Fine. You can't just be Earl King Wes, homage to a character from the Dresden Files, but not a direct recreation. So those are fine. So, anyway, just little tidbits from our history, and I'm sure the next time we find ourselves doing a Dark Knight, we may be rediscussing these stories or many others. As it is, it's our normal wrap-up time, so I'm going to wrap us up. I think
Sounds good.
I think we're good, although much less exhausted than I was than I've been previously. So yeah, let's wrap up the night. And I think we are going to. Well, I know who we're going to raid because it's exactly the kind of night for this raid. But let's go over what's coming up this week. So on Thursday, join us at 7 p.m. For Dr. Caliban's Nightmare Cinema, where we're going to be watching episodes 5 and 6 of Spy Smasher, which is a really good 1940s movie serial. And yeah, so join us for that, and it'll be fun, and we'll do some trailers. We already found some good trailers for this week, so we're feeling good about that. And then on Sunday, we'll be doing Sunday in the Lab with Dr. Caliban and the Storyteller. It's going to be a shorter stream. I have to leave early on Sunday because I promised my sister I'd go help her with something. And the only time I can find to do that, because I'm recording Paladin's Bargain on Saturday. So I'm going to need to go over to my sister's house on Sunday. And then join us next Monday at 6 p.m. when MNW returns from break with the next episode of Warzone, where you're going to discover the fallout of Millennium Dragon. So we're gonna raid Distortion Devil because we've been discussing MNW history, and he's an MNW member of long standing, and we raid him all the time. So go tell Connor hi. And just the raid message is MNW Nostalgia Night. And with that, do you have anything, Tim, you want to add before we head out?
No, I got nothing.
All right. And I'm not, since we've just been talking all night, and there hasn't really been a chat, I'm not going to drop into chat to discuss. We'll do that next week. All right. So talk to you all later. Have a good night, and peace out.
Peace.